Okay, folks, if you all go ahead and have a seat, get comfortable, we'll gavel in 2 minutes.
Right. Exactly. I'm going to start saying that from now on.
On the screen.
That is exactly it. I love that.
All right, Jason, you ready to go live? Okay. Folks, good evening. We'll gavel in. Good evening. A live crowd. And very spunky, I might add, getting out tonight. It's chilly out there, so thank you for making the effort. I know we have a few people online that decided to stay home in the warm, and I fully understand that. Thank you for being here and participating virtually. This is the January 22, 2025 annual meeting of the Tampa Heights Civic Association. It's also our general meeting. The annual meeting is a special time for us because it's also the time that we consider our change in leadership. One of the action items we'll have today is a selection of our board of directors for the coming year. The slate is up there on the board. We will get to that in due course, but if you are unfamiliar with who's running, there are no contested races, by the way. This is the slate, and at the appropriate time we will be presenting that slate for vote by acclamation. But you certainly familiarize yourself with the names. Most of those candidates are here in the room today, and at the appropriate time they'll stand up, introduce themselves. And the new candidates that have not been on the board before, I'll give them a minute to identify themselves and give you a brief bio. That's coming. A moment of discussion regarding Zoom protocol. We are streaming live. There are 2 mics, one here in the room for you folks. Our acoustics here are not always that great, but the mic, I hope, gets the voices from the podium out to you. You can hear me all right. If you project, we should be able to communicate pretty well. The round mic up here at the podium is for the Zoom attendees. So if you are up here at the podium for whatever reason speaking to the group, please be aware that you have 2 audiences. If you're up here in a situation where you're taking questions from the audience, as will happen later in the meeting, I'll just ask you please, when you take the question, to please repeat it, summarize it, so the folks at home will be able to hear it and understand what you're saying when you're responding. When you are posing the question from the audience, please try to project as best you can. Keep your volume up. Maybe your original words will actually be picked up. It'd be nice, but usually doesn't work that way. But if the speaker cooperates, and I will remind, we can keep the communication flow going well. There's a sign-in at the back. I think most of you probably got caught as you walked in the door. We've asked you please to sign in, give us contact information to let us know whether or not you are actually an active member of the Civic Association. That is particularly significant today because although we don't have any contested races, there are 2 action items on our agenda today. One is the slate of candidates and election of the board. The other is an amendment to the bylaws. Both of those issues are going to be presented to you, and we will request by motion, a motion to approve by acclamation. If you are a member of the Civic Association, active, a dues-paying member, an elector, in other words, you're eligible to vote. So I have to impose a certain amount of the honor system here. If you're an active member of the association, when we ask for your vote, vote. If you're not, just stay mute. That'll be great, okay? And we'll be able to move along on those action items quickly. I guess I'll move on to the announcements. Just a couple of them. January the 28th, just next week, Tuesday, the Florida Department of Transportation is having a public information open house at the Hillsborough County Bar Association offices on Tampa Street. Many of you have been to these meetings in the past. It's in the Chester Ferguson building between Stetson Law School and the Interstate on Tampa Street on the west side. They're presenting a series of projects, principally those that are centered here in Tampa Heights and the surrounding communities. The projects that are specifically identified on the announcement are the Florida Avenue and Tampa Street urban corridor improvements, the Ola Avenue new bikeway, the Central Avenue new bikeway, Highland Avenue repaving, the I-275 Waterworks Park sidewalk gap. Honestly, I don't know what that is. I guess there's a gap in the sidewalk over around Eulalie. I-275 capacity improvements, that relates to the additional lanes north of I-4 up to Hannah, and possibly beyond that, but I think for these purposes, these project numbers suggest just the I-4 to Hannah project. For that same corridor, landscaping improvements. So if you live along that corridor and you're wondering what the interstate and the surrounding neighborhoods are going to look like when they're done, you'll have an opportunity to talk to FDOT and see their artists' renditions as to how they're planning to improve the locale on either side of the infrastructure, what trees they're planting, etc. And then finally, last but certainly not least, the downtown interchange, DTI, I-275, I-4 interchange. All of those projects are centered in Tampa Heights, lucky us. And this will be our chance to get caught up with FDOT. Not a lot of room anymore for changes on a lot of these projects, but they're still taking input along the fringes, really literally when we're talking about things like landscaping. So you can certainly get yourself informed, identify project issues that maybe be of particular concern to you, and maybe something that might even motivate you to show up at a public meeting at some point in the future if you have an objection. But a good opportunity. This is from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, January 28th at, again, the Chester Ferguson Law Center. If you can't make it to that in person, the same program will be presented again virtually on January the 29th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And there's a registration component. I'll leave this up at the desk. Anybody that's interested in taking a look at it will be able to jot down that information as you're leaving. So anyway, I plan to be there. Hopefully I'll see many of you there. Also, I had a message from Kitty Wallace of the community garden just a couple of days ago, offering to host a porch party for us at the community garden. This is something they've done annually. This is March 14th. No time yet, but you can assume it'll be 5:30 to start at the community garden. So March 14th, if you want to make a note of that, certainly we'll have some press on it. Ted Marcello, our corresponding secretary, is great at putting out information on these kinds of events, so hopefully we'll see some of you there at the garden. Okay, we have some updates. I'm already tired of hearing myself speak, so let me ask Taryn Savia to step up. I think it was last week, Taryn, you and I and Josh Frank and Roger Grunke met with members of City of Tampa staff, Transportation Division, about the Floribraska project, the not quite so complete street project that we now are looking at. Taryn was one of our subject matter experts who was kind enough to be there and kind of defend us, because I didn't know enough to ask the right questions, but I certainly was interested to be there. So I've asked Taryn to give us a general summary of what she heard and what we might anticipate in the coming months.
Thanks, Rick. Good evening, everyone. So Floribraska is going to be going under construction for improvements and inclusion of bicycle infrastructure. So some of the concerns that we had and the reason that we met with the city was that Vic Bade, who was here during our last meeting of 2024, mentioned to us that the project would be beginning, that a contractor had been selected and the project was going to receive a notice to proceed, but that the project ultimately looked very different than what we had originally been told it was going to be, and there was a number of design elements that had been removed due to budget constraints. So we wanted to see what in fact the project was going to entail, what it looked like, and to have a better understanding of what impact we may have on getting back any of the design elements that had previously been cut out. So we did receive a file for the design drawings, the engineering drawings. They're quite different. It's not a cycle track. They are divided bike lanes, so they're directional with traffic. They are reducing the overall lane widths and number of lanes on Floribraska. And the project is going from Tampa Street east to just beyond Nebraska. So there is going to be a gap between those bike lanes and the cycle track that is on Nuccio and that green spine. And hopefully, though, we will see it connect up to the bike lanes that are on Tampa Street and the project that will be taking place on Ola. Some of the concerns that we shared with the city were safety concerns at the intersections and making sure that the intersections had the correct pedestrian striping for crossings, the call buttons and the flashing beacons so that people can cross safely, and looked at intersections all the way from Tampa Street through Elmore and at Nebraska as well, and then looked specifically at Central Avenue, Elmore, and Tampa Street to make sure that we had all the safety elements in there. So there are some components that we felt were missing. Mobility agreed that they were missing in terms of making sure that all 4 roadways at an intersection were striped. That was missing on some of the drawings. They agreed that they felt that that is something that they are trying to do throughout the city. So we do think that there's a little bit of room for some improvements. Any major design changes, we were told the ship has kind of sailed on major things, but we're hoping to hear back from them on the requests that we made. We also were looking at signal timings, and other safety measures. So Josh Frank, who joined us, is the president of Walk Bike Tampa, and had some really great comments in terms of making sure how the Floribraska project connects overall throughout the city. And we hope to hear back from them sometime by, I think, about the end of the month or so, and before they start construction, in terms of the additional safety measures that we might see for both bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure on Floribraska.
Any questions for Sharon?
I remember hearing there were some concerns about the traffic exiting the highway for pedestrians. Was there that brought up at all?
Yeah, so we did bring that up on which is that intersection on Elmore, because as cars exit from the interstate, there would be a right turn lane that they would go into. So essentially they'd be able to come off the interstate and continue going and make that right on red. So we had a conversation with the mobility department about signage, both like standing pole sign as well as potential of painting the roadway itself so that there would be no right on red there in order to reduce the number of conflicts for the pedestrian and bicycle safety for that right on red. If anybody is familiar with the intersection of 21st and Palm Avenue in Ybor, this is a similar condition where there's a right on red and it creates a lot of conflict. So that was one of the examples that we used to help illustrate kind of the worry that we have. So they did agree that that could be problematic and that they would look into the right on red signage to prevent it.
Any other questions for Taryn? No? Okay.
All right.
Taryn, thank you. Now, those of you who've been around for a while know that we've been talking about this project. It's got to be at least 3 years, maybe more like 4. And we've been all over the place in terms of what has been promised to us by the city. Some of you may remember Calvin Hardy, who was with the Transportation Department of the city, who was basically the point person for this project, was here at these meetings here in this building probably 3 or 4 times, not to mention others that were held in other locations in the area. So suffice to say, what was being promised early on, and really even as recently as last year, is not what we're getting. So I'm grateful that we're going to see some improvements, but they aren't what we were hoping for. And I guess the only way to really look at it, the way I'm trying to look at it, is that it's an incremental improvement, and perhaps we'll be able to come back to it again at a different time, with different budgetary issues under a different administration. But we should see some improvements and hopefully some safety along Floribraska that we're not enjoying now. So, and I might say the meeting we had with the city was made exponentially better because of Taryn and Josh Frank and Roger being in the room. They brought a lot of, not just subject matter expertise, but obviously knowledge of the community historically and otherwise. And frankly, taught the City of Tampa staff a few things that they didn't know. So that's always pleasurable for me. And they listened. So we're waiting to get some response back from them. We were promised a letter summarizing the results of the meeting with some input as to what they felt at this point they might be able to do to recognize our concerns. And I'm expecting to get that letter within the next week to 10 days. We'll see what shows up, and you'll be updated when it does. Okay, that's Floribraska. Next, Yellow Brick Road. Some of you who follow Hope Donnelly on Facebook or have been at these meetings, or perhaps went to a board meeting in the last month or so, are aware that Hope had a really significant issue, certainly in her perception, and the more I learned about it, I agreed, with the metered parking that was installed along Franklin Street, along the Yellow Brick Road area. She initiated communication with the City of Tampa, initially seeking to have those meters removed. Those discussions went on, not to her satisfaction in terms of resolution. I believe it was in November that she came, maybe it was December, that she came to our board meeting and brought her issues to us. We issued a letter from the board to the City Council asking for some input from them and asking for support for Hope's concerns, one of which was, and is, that she is, unlike most of the people that have businesses along the Yellow Brick Road, she's actually a resident. And the metered parking that was installed basically took away any free parking that she might have had as a resident along that stretch of road. The availability was down the street to the south, under the interstate overpass. That's where she would park for free and then would have to negotiate Franklin Street, the 2 or 3 blocks to get back to the Rialto, which is where she lived, and the business that she owns. And that was a safety concern. In any event, last week, in fact, I think it was the day after we met with the city about Floribraska, I met with Hope and with the manager, the parking manager for the City of Tampa, a gentleman by the name of Fed Rivolti, I think is how he pronounces his last name. And there were some resolutions that were reached that I think were ultimately to Hope's satisfaction. Among them, let me do this. I got a voicemail from Lynn Hertek just before I left the house. Let me let her tell you what's happening, if I can get this to play right.
Hi Rick, it's Lynn. I saw your email for the Tampa Heights meeting. I think it might even be tonight. But I wanted to make sure I let you know, I noticed that the Franklin Street was on there, and I wanted to let you know that I have put forward a motion to go ahead and add the Franklin Street corridor to the residential parking permit, which actually covers business too. It's poorly named, but basically that would allow parking passes to be given to businesses and residents along Franklin Street. I think Fed said he talked to you a little bit about it, but I wanted to let you know that I made the motion last Thursday night, and I asked for it to come back the 6th, but they need more time, so it'll be coming back the 20th for first reading. So if you have any questions, you can give me a call back. Thanks, and have a great day.
All right, so Lynn couldn't be with us today, but it was good of her to make that effort, and I appreciated hearing from her. Long story short, Hope and other business owners along that stretch are going to have parking permits. They'll have to wait till this code ordinance is passed, which I guess will be later in February for first reading and then come back in March. They will have parking passes. I think it's 2 or 4, I forget now. But she will have a place to park for free along the street. And there's also city parking available, just one lot to the west on Tampa Street. It's the free library parking lot that she already has access to. That's a lot that is not monitored. There's no towing out of that lot, and she's already been listed by license plate as an authorized user of the lot. So her individual concern, I think, has now been met. And apparently, as a result of her efforts, the concerns of others along the corridor that perhaps have not been voiced as aggressively have also been met. So I'll put that as a win, I think. And again, we'll keep following up. Lynn Hertech has obviously been very supportive of this, and we'll keep up with her and make sure that we follow that ordinance to its rightful conclusion. Yes, Brian.
So, if I could bring this up, I will forward you an email about the West Ross Avenue parking permit. If it's that easy that Councilman Hertag made a motion about that, we've been waiting 4 years on West Ross for that to be made. And so, you know, I mean, I am all for Hope's predicament, but you know, if council can move a mountain to help one person, there's been a couple dozen homeowners that have been waiting for that for 4 years. So I'd like to see if Councilman Hertag can move that forward. If you could ask her about that.
Okay.
I can help give the background, but I think that was something I talked to you about. And Fed said to you that day, he gave some sandbagging reason that the city's been sandbagging it and dragging it along. So
yeah, there is a point counterpoint on that, and I heard it. I'm not sure I fully embrace it. I'm not going to take time in the meeting today to get into it, but we certainly can continue to pursue that for the folks over on Ross.
thanks.
I know you've been at that for a long time. Okay, let's see. Robles Park. Those of you who showed up here today thinking that you were going to get a briefing on the Robles Park Village project, I'm sorry to disappoint. The gentleman that was scheduled to be here with us today came up sick. He contacted me yesterday, I think, to tell me he has RSV, I think is the alphabet soup for this particular flu or bug, highly contagious, and he certainly didn't feel like he was in a position to come here tonight. So we are going to push the project discussion to next month, but I did ask his team to send me some talking points that I might share with you. They were kind enough to send something along around 4 o'clock this afternoon. So I'm just going to read through this. It may mean something to some of you, maybe not, but at least it gives you a bit of a teaser, and we'll get into all of this more next month. City Council approved the rezoning of the Robles Park Village site to PDA, Planned Development Alternative, during its August 22, 2024 meeting. The Tampa Housing Authority has relocated almost all residents of Robles Park at this point, Robles Park Village. Demolition is expected to commence by the 3rd quarter of this year, 2025. Last week, Florida Housing Finance Corporation's Review Committee recommended providing funding to Parcel D through a competitive state apartment incentive loan request for applications. The Parcel D building will comprise 220 high-quality affordable rental housing units and the 30,000 square foot hub facility that will be well located in the heart of the development on the southwest corner of Lake and Avon Avenue. Okay, Lake and Avon Avenue, southwest corner. The hub will provide vital community resources on site, focusing on 4 interlinked pillars, namely basic needs, services, and housing, health and wellness, education, and jobs and economic vitality. Parcel D construction is contemplated to begin by the end of the first quarter of 2026. The master developer partnership of the Tampa Housing Authority, PMG Affordable, and Bank of America Community Development Company is leasing the second floor of the Tampa Heights Junior Civic Association's building at 3717 North Central Avenue. That's the long-term project office. The master developer looks forward to providing an in-person update at Tampa Heights Civic Association next meeting in February. So I really can't answer any questions on that or provide any more meat for the bones, but hopefully that gives you a little more knowledge than you had when you walked in the room, and we'll certainly get into that in more detail in the coming months. That project's going to be with us for a long time, obviously, and has a legacy effect for this community going decades into the future. All right. I think that takes us to the election. Action item number 1. First of all, before we dive into this, I want to thank Ari Fitzgerald, who's sitting back there in her coat, along with Billy Dobbins, our treasurer. Ari has agreed to and did serve as our election committee chair. She actually took that on some months ago and has basically been the driving force behind the nominations, getting people's names in the record, getting the profiles on bio, doing the things that under the bylaws are required in order for people to qualify to run. And that qualification period closed in November. Ari has been at it since the summer, I believe, is when I asked her to do this. So Ari, I just wanted publicly to say thank you. You'll be up here in a few moments, but I wanted to say thank you. I also want to say thank you to outgoing board members, some of whom are here, I think. And whether they are or not, they still deserve recognition. These are folks that have been on the board varying degrees of time, and they have, for one reason or another, decided to step off and pursue other initiatives at this point. Evan Lindbergh has served as our recording secretary. I don't think Evan is here. He has job conflicts in the evenings. Matt St. Green, Northwest Quadrant representative. Faith Wynn, Northeast Quadrant representative. Jim Hartnett, Southeast Quadrant representative. And Jana Davis, our second VP. I think I see Jana back there in the corner. Is that you? Yeah, okay. Jana just walked in. So those folks have served on the board. They've served well. They've served you. And I want to offer a heartfelt thanks to each and every one of them. They each in their own way made my job easier, and I certainly appreciate that. Now, introduction of the 2025 candidate slate. You see the names up on the wall? Some of these folks will be brand new to the board. Others are incumbents who will be returning to the board. I have asked the new incoming candidates to prepare a 1-minute intro. And under the circumstances, I may ask you folks to just step on up here to the podium and do it from here so people can actually see you on Zoom and hear you, if that's all right. Taryn, you've already been up here and know the way, so why don't you pop on up. Taryn Sabia is our candidate for recording secretary.
Thank you, Rick. Again, I'm Taryn Sabia. To introduce myself, I've lived in Tampa Heights with my family for a little over 15 years now, since 2009. We're in the Northeast Quadrant. Double check, make sure I got that right.
Yes, you are.
For the last couple of years, I've also served on the Land Use Committee for Tampa Heights. I've been a longtime community advocate in the City of Tampa, working on issues of better design and programming to connect us throughout the city. In my day job, I'm an assistant dean for research and faculty in the College of Design, Art, and Performance at the University of South Florida, and a number of my research projects have focused on things with communities here in the city as well as the county related to flood vulnerability, heat resilience, and community design issues. So I'm looking forward to serving my neighborhood in this capacity.
Thank you. Okay, second Vice President, Nicole Federica.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nicole Federica. I've lived with my family in Tampa Heights in the southeast quadrant since 2013. We're at the corner right there close to Lee's at Central and Amelia. So we have 2 boys, and it's been great living in this neighborhood. I'm a Tampa native. I love being an urbanist. I'm an architect. So it's very near and dear to my heart to be in a city that is so, in the neighborhood that is so connected to our city. I also run my firm out of Tampa Heights. The firm is located on 7th Avenue, and the building there is ours. And we also have my husband's business there, which is a landscape architecture firm, and some other businesses local in the community too. So I'm also on the the Tampa Downtown Partnerships SSD committee. So a lot of the things that we're talking about today, talking about the Franklin Street corridor and things like that, I hear those connection points, and I like to bring those connections together. Yeah, I'm looking forward to serving on the board. Thanks.
Thank you. Thomas Miller, Northwest Quad Rep.
Hi everybody, I'm Thomas Miller. I live in the Northwest Quadrant of Ola Avenue, kind of close to MLK, so far north I would say. And yeah, I've been living in the area since 2018, so 6 years going on 7. And I mean, I don't think we have a whole lot of representation here from the Northwest Quadrant, so kind of would like to disseminate some of the information from here out to the people that live over there. And I know there's a lot of new development and stuff happening over there, especially like houses being built, stuff like that. So if people have like concerns, stuff like that, I think it's important for us to have our representation here. So that's why I was kind of interested in being here and doing this. So yeah, my day job, I am a chemical engineer that works, not in Tampa Heights, but still locally, and yeah, that's me, so.
Great, thank you. All right, you've heard this name 3 or 4 times today already, Roger Grunka. If you step on up, Roger. This is for Northeast Quad.
Good evening. My name is Roger Grunka. I am an architect, preservation architect, urban advocate, and a building contractor. I have lived in Tampa Heights for 9 years, and I think it is the most exciting neighborhood in the city of Tampa. Looking forward to working with all of the other reps and with the people on the Land Use Committee. Let's go forward.
Thank you, Roger. And last but not least, among the new candidates, the new members of or soon-to-be new members of the board, Southeast Quad Rep candidate Aaron McKinnon.
Hi, my name is Erin McKinnon. I live on the corner of Morgan and Francis, and then also lived, my son's father lives on Central, right in front of the sanctuary. And I've been here on and off since 2011, but have been in my current house for, oh my gosh, 5 years. God, I just didn't, counting her ums, and I just did it, and it drove me nuts. Reset. Okay. Can't get out of it now. I'm so sorry, Taryn. I am not an architect. I do event management, so I do a lot of experiential marketing campaigns. Just started working with the 13 Ugly Men organization, and have some other great things in the works. But you guys probably know me from all that Grand Cathedral cigar fun stuff. So I guess that's why I was recruited, because I just get out there and talk when people don't want to hear me talk, and annoy people until we get stuff done. So that's me, and I'm totally unprepared, and I am so sorry. I'm honest though.
I'm not an architect either.
You did great. Word to the wise, if you show up at a meeting and make noise and complain about things, somebody's going to recruit you to be on the board or chair a committee. So that's what happened to you, Aaron. Sorry. Okay, returning incumbents. I'm not going to have these folks come up here to the podium because they've been around for a while and most of you know them, but I am going to ask them to at least stand and identify themselves to you so that you can put names and faces together if for some reason that connection hasn't occurred. Kareem Young is our first VP. Ted Marcello is our corresponding secretary. Paul Rabeau, Southwest Quadrant Rep. I haven't seen him walk in. Billy Dobbins, our treasurer, is back there at the check-in counter. Lena Young-Green is not with us tonight. She's at home, but she's the at-large representative. Brian Seal is our parliamentarian, former president, member of the board, and then me, Rick Fernandez. So that is your slate. Are there any questions of me or anybody you just heard introduced or anybody that just came up here to the podium to speak to you? Okay. If that's the case, I'm going to ask Ari Fitzgerald to come up to the podium. I'm going to pass the gavel to her. Please introduce yourself and tell us something about yourself. You deserve the recognition.
I don't know that that's true, but as you heard, my name's Ari Fitzgerald. I've been serving as your election committee chair since I think it was September, right before the storms got us. And I have enjoyed it. And I've been a member of Tampa Heights almost since we moved into a neighboring neighborhood 6 years ago, 2018. Riverside Heights, which does not have such a great organization, or it's not an active one. And I came here to kind of learn how it's done, and it's been really educational and informative, and I've gotten involved because, like y'all, I love the neighborhood too, and I think it's worth taking care of. So, you know, show up and make noise like Aaron did, and just because you're getting recruited to do a job, it's a good thing. So, without further ado, I would like to ask for a motion from, oh, by the way, I'm doing this because Rick, as a candidate for president, we need to put some separation between office holders and the election. So, I am going to formally ask for a motion from the floor to approve the slate by acclamation. Someone care to make a motion? A second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been seconded. All in favor of approving the slate by acclamation, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank Great job, Ari. Thank you very much. I'll take the gavel back now unless you want to fight me for it. Appreciate it. That now takes us to the next action item. If you could put that up for us. And we do have a presentation on Burrell Park and the like coming. If you came here specifically for that, that'll be the next item after we get through the amendment of the bylaws. Okay. This amendment has been percolating through the system since the last quarter. I think September probably is when it was first mentioned, and in October we actually litigated a motion to raise this issue at a future meeting. The idea behind it, that's been percolating at the board level for far more than just a few months. It has generally been the sense of the board now for years that whoever winds up as president of the Civic Association, whoever deems it appropriate to run, should have at least 1 year of service on the board of directors before doing so. That has been, as a matter of practice, that's been a norm. That's just been what's happened. We have generated our candidates for president out of the board, and they've all been serving on the board for more than a year and basically knew what we were about. Finally, this last year and now, today, we hope to bring this in for a landing and make it part of the bylaws that in order to run for president of the Tampa Heights Civic Association, that you have to have served 1 year on the board of directors. That's what this amendment is intended to do. I know you're all capable of reading, but let me pull this thing up. All right, this is Article 2, Officers, Section 3, Officer Duties, President, Chairman, Qualification. Qualification is the amending language. The President, having first served at least 1 year on the Board of Directors, to qualify as a candidate for election, shall be the Chief Executive Officer and shall preside at all meetings of the Board of Directors, etc., etc. The amending language is having first served at least 1 year on the Board of Directors to qualify as a candidate for election. That is the amendment to the bylaws that is being proposed today. I am asking for a motion from the floor to approve the amendment. I see a motion by Nicole Pederica. Is there a second? I see a second from Roger Grunka. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, I see no hands up, no discussion. That being the case, I'll ask please for a call by acclamation. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. All right, I'll note that for the record as a unanimous vote approving the bylaw amendment. Thank you very much for that. It's hard to believe it's taken us this long to get around to doing it, but it's done. All right. I am now going to call on Vanessa Nettingham. She's the Community Engagement Coordinator, Neighborhood and Community Affairs for the City of Tampa. Vanessa has she came to my attention initially because of an email that hit my screen a few weeks ago about a presentation I think that you're making in the next couple of weeks, right? On Burrell Park, which is a sister park to Robles Park, just on the other side of the interstate. And it struck me that with everything going on at Robles Park right now, that having some discussion about Burrell, just on the other side of the interstate on Nebraska, might be appropriate. But I just learned today, I believe it was today that we had this conversation. She also has some information for us on Robles and some upcoming meetings and events that might be of significance to us in addition to Burrell. So with that said, Vanessa, I'll turn over the podium, and please just remind mic for the room, mic for the Zoom, and if anybody asks you a question, just to repeat, all right? Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Vanessa Nettingham. I'm in the Community Engagement and Partnerships Department with the City of Tampa. So I cover the East region. So I have downtown, I have Ybor, I've got East Tampa, so everything East Hillsborough, East of the River, that's all mine. So basically what we do, we connect people to City Hall, people to resources. So a lot of people come to me with concerns or ideas. We have events that we do in the community as well. We partner with several people in the community to do other events also. So we kind of do a little bit of everything. So one of the big things that we have coming up that I wanted to talk to you all about was the Burrell Park meeting. So this is going to be an initial meeting for the community to come out, and basically we want to hear you. We want to hear your opinions, your voice. What ideas do you have for Burrell Park? I know that does affect some of you guys who live in this area. We have mainly got it obviously from more of the people on EBOR who have come to me with the concern. So we're going to have this initial meeting just to talk about some ideas, toss around what you would like to see, and then the city will also speak about maybe some things that they would like, they want to put over in that area to kind of change it. The partnerships that we might need over in that area, Trinity Cafe being one of them, to see how we can kind of just make it a better park for everyone to come and go and enjoy themselves without feeling some sort of push out over there. So any questions on that meeting? No? Cool. Hopefully you guys will come and give your opinions, because we really, really, really want it and need it. Because you guys' voices are important. You go to the parks, you're in the community, so we want to hear that, and we want to take those things and implement it, not just go in and do it. So we want you a part of it. And then lastly, we, as you guys know, the hurricane recovery stuff continues. We have still a lot of work to do, a lot of things to put together. So we will be having these updated meetings coming up. We'll have a series of them. In the handout I gave to you, we have one starting on January 27th at DeSoto Elementary. You can go to any of those meetings, whichever one is easiest for you to go to. A lot of information will be given. If you still need information on your property or permitting, or you know someone who needs that information who was greatly affected by the hurricanes, this will be the perfect meeting for them to go to. Other than that, I don't have anything else for tonight. However, I will continue to send things to the Civic Association email so that you guys are able to know what's going on in the city, what events are coming up. If you have a concern, you can get my information from Rick. And then also, we have a newsletter that we put out once a month through our office that talks about everything going on in all the regions, because we all cover the East, North, West, South. We all cover it. So that newsletter has a compilation of everything going on in the city, and neighborhood meetings in the other regions as well. So if you want to sign up for that, you can get my information again from Rick, and I can get you signed up on that newsletter so that you guys can stay in the know what's going on in the city. Yes.
Questions, Kareem?
So you said that your area all east of the Hillsborough, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the part that is very, very weak and to, concern of stormwater and flooding is Rose's.
Yes.
Rose's Park has had a very big issue in the last two storms that we had, and the issue that we had is that the stormwater was flooding, but also we had some issue with contaminated water mixing with that. We just had a rain here about 3 days ago, and I just want to make sure that we have the correct pumps that are activated, that may not necessarily be electric, but we're able to find something that if the power goes out, that we don't have flooding like we had with those storms. Is that something that you guys are working on?
Excuse me. So the question was about Robles Park. I'm sorry, we're down the wrong hatch. The question was about Robles Park, and as far as what the city's gonna do as far as pumps and things for the future. So yes, those things will be discussed at those meetings. So if you come to that meeting and bring up that topic, there will be somebody there that can address that.
And also lighting
Yeah.
You repeated at the meeting, but I just wanted to get.
That's fine. Yeah, so all of your concerns of Rose Park is definitely not new. I hear it all the time. We're very, very aware of it. So there are things that have been talked about that they want to implement over there. And then obviously, you know, the big project that's going to come over in Robles Park with them shutting down the housing over there and all the redevelopment that's going to happen. So tons of things are going to be happening in Robles Park. So it's just going to be kind of a one step at a time situation. But again, those are great questions and questions that we've heard a lot. So definitely come to the meeting, and for the specifically as far as the stormwater and the pumps and things go, that would be the perfect time to ask that question because somebody will be there to answer that.
Questions? Vanessa, I guess I'm looking for a little bit more meat on the bones about Morel.
Okay.
I mean, I drive by there fairly frequently. I see the condition of the park. It's a beautiful park. I have no reason why it can't be utilized by the neighborhood and community. But what are the types of issues that the city is looking at? I mean, I appreciate you're telling us, come and give us your ideas.
Correct.
What is the city generating by way of ideas for Burrell Park? Now, this has to be a two-way thing, so what's your way?
Correct. So I don't have the specifics on the exact proposals at the moment because I know they want to hear the community output opinions first. But obviously the biggest things that we're hearing, public safety issue over in that area, those that are houseless over in that area. And then there's some connection obviously with Trinity Cafe that's causing some of the quote unquote concerns as well. So my goal is to partner with them to see what maybe we could mitigate some less of the hanging around over there with them as well. So it's all gonna just be a partnership at the moment. At the moment.
Terrence Sagan?
And I'm sure you've reached out to the BME or Neighborhood Association.
Yes.
And yeah, they're really engaged.
Yep, very
Meeting's
engaged.
tonight
with them.
too, I think.
Pardon?
I think they're having a meeting tonight too.
And they're meeting tonight too. So
Yeah.
I was just knowing some of the challenges in the past, and it may also, when they do the outreach session, I'm assuming that hoping Parks and Rec will be there, as
Yep.
well as maybe liaisons with TPD, because I know that having a partnership with them as well for some of the other challenges for some of the housing that's on Nebraska
Correct.
would be helpful.
Correct. So there was a suggestion of possible partnerships people to come to this meeting. So yes, there will be representatives from Parks and Rec there. There will be representatives from TPD there as well. We're trying to get code enforcement as well. So there should be plenty of representation from the city to discuss this concern over in Burrell Park. So we do work with BM, Ivor Heights as well, with Mimi. So we've definitely been doing a lot of work with those guys. Or myself.
Other questions? I'm sorry, Jason, do you have a question or something online?
Something online. Someone asked, when is the meeting for Burrell Park?
Okay, yeah, so for those online, the meeting for Burrell Park is going to be Wednesday, February 5th, 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Reagan Park Community Center. So for those that may not know, Reagan Park is just 1200 East Lake Avenue. So again, February 5th, 6:30 to 8 p.m., Reagan Park Community Center, 1200 East Lake Avenue. Yes, sir.
Roger?
This is a thought and a suggestion.
Okay.
What happens in the park, or what the park should be, cannot be separate from the area around it.
Yes.
And the land area between Nebraska Avenue and the interstate is going to undergo tremendous change in the coming years. I know that we don't have any leadership right now since the resignation of the urban design director, but there needs to be a strong working cross relationship between what you're trying to do in the park and how that land will be developed, used in the future.
Alrighty, I'm just taking note. Thank you.
Thank you, Lester. Any other questions or comments from the audience? Anything else online? No? Just one last question for me.
Okay.
Is there a similar meeting that might be organized for Robles Park?
That's a very good question. We could definitely do that. If we hear much of a need for it, definitely we'll do it. But again, just going through that whole transition phase right now with the housing over there and the projects and the redevelopment, so I'm not quite sure what meetings that they're gonna have in the near future.
Well, I'm thinking that this might be an ideal time to be having that kind of meeting with the developers
Sure.
and with the city.
Yeah.
To make sure that what's being done at the development for Robles Park Village is sympathetic, symbiotic,
Sure.
that's a better word, with the park. I know there have been concerns expressed by people that live around the park that were just flooded out
Right.
as to, what effects that development will have on things like drainage, water flow. We had a big enough problem as it was, and now there's going to be even more development, more concrete. Those kinds of things need to be addressed in tandem, I think. It may be an offshoot of even what Roger said. There has to be a whole of the community type of analysis. And the park is a huge part of this community.
Yeah, I can definitely speak with them about having a separate meeting that specifically will address Robles Park.
Who's the them?
My director, I would speak with her first to start
Who is?
there.
Who is?
Miss Janelle McGregor.
Janelle? Okay.
Yes. So I would speak with her, and then from there, we could develop and devise a plan to find out who would be at that meeting, where it would be, and then execute the plan.
Taryn?
Yeah, I got some suggestions on who should be at that meeting.
All right.
But the Robles Park itself is not part of the development. So making sure that Robles Park, has a future plan and that everyone is on board, I think is gonna be really essential, because the developers aren't going to be doing anything to that park, but we wanna make sure that the urban design interface, as Roger's talked about, is one that works with the neighborhood. So having the design team, the developer there would be important, having Parks and Rec there would be important, having FDOT there would be important for that as well as stormwater. So there's a number of things, and I would say that based on the last meeting that we had when Vic was here with us, we did express concern for Robles Park then as well, because of a number of the issues that we had during the previous storms, but also due to changes in the overall neighborhood and challenges with construction due to the interstate as well. So there's a number of impacts that are happening there.
Sure. Yes, I will definitely take all of those suggestions back, and then we can see what we can put together.
Okay, well, I'll be in contact.
Sure, please.
All right. Any other questions for the good of the order? No comments? Okay, Vanessa, thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, let me just make sure I didn't miss anything. I believe that may conclude our business, and we're going to be out in an hour's time, which is something of a record for me. No, I think we're good. Unless, yes.
There was a question on, is there any update from the Y on construction?
Is there any update from the Y on construction? Nothing that I'm prepared to report on tonight, no. Okay. All right, I guess we're good. We're adjourned. Thank you so much. Yeah, if you would, just grab your chair, and there's a rack over here to the side.